Hello there. I thought I'd have a go at making a video series that I've been meaning to do for months and months and months. And obviously with this situation that we're in right now, it affords me a little bit more time to do things like this. So let's get down to it. This video is the first part of my top 50 favourite films of all time. Now, quick disclaimer, I'm not saying these are the best films of all time, they're simply my favourites. So when you watch this, some of these you may agree with, some of them are absolute bona fide classics, and others you may well be shaking your head at and thinking, why on earth has he chosen that? But this is totally subjective, totally my own ideas, and the films that have connected with me personally. But I'd love to hear what films have connected with you personally in the comments below. So as we go through these, I hope it encourages you to think about your favourite films and what order you'd place them in. Of course, another disclaimer, these ranking videos are always treacherous. Obviously my lists of favourites will change, if not on a daily basis, certainly on a yearly basis. So if I'll probably be shaking my own head when I come back to watch this in years to come. But let's get started. Enough waffle. I'm going to get straight into the top 50, and I'm going to start with, in this video, number 50 to number 41. Now, I kind of found the last 10 almost as difficult to choose as the top 10, because when you get down to the bottom 50, the bottom 10, you are thinking about films that you like, maybe even love, but aren't necessarily the films that you would put up there as your top 10 films. They're just films that you've really enjoyed and love in their own way, but not necessarily your favourite ones. So with that in mind, number 50 is Team America. Now, Team America, for anyone who's not seen it, is a bit of a spoof film by the guys that did South Park, Trey Parker and I can't remember the other guy's name, and it is the first in the list of gloriously silly films. There's something about films that are just daft that really connect with me. That sort of daft humour, like Naked Gun, Airplane, even films like Dumb and Dumber, things like that, that really just have me rolling on the floor laughing. Absolutely love them. And Team America is one such film. It's actually, even though it's really daft humour, it's quite clever the way they spoof not only politics and patriotism, especially American patriotism in the sort of wake of 9/11 and all that kind of thing, and George W. Bush. But they also really make fun of the medium that they're working in as well, which is puppets, marionettes to be exact. And yeah, it really makes fun of the sort of limit of its own limitations, which I absolutely love. I lent this to someone, and one of the comments they made was, "Oh, it's terribly made, isn't it?" But that's the idea. It's supposed to make fun of its own limitations as an art form. And some of the funniest bits in the film are definitely where those come to the fore. So things like fight scenes where you kind of expect them to be amazing, like in normal Hollywood films, and then it will cut to a fight scene that's just terrible with two marionettes fighting each other on strings, and you realise, yep, it was never going to be brilliant, was it, in that medium. Another amazingly funny scene is the sex scene for exactly the same reasons. And yeah, some great tunes in there as well. So definitely one to check out if you want to laugh, if you want to smile. Team America, you can't beat it. Right, that's the first one done. I'm already 4 minutes in. 49, I'm going to go for something very different. Pan's Labyrinth, which is a film by the, I really should have made notes, shouldn't I? Because I'm forgetting everyone's names. Del Toro, yeah, Del Toro, the director, the Mexican American director, and it's a beautiful, beautiful film, but very, very tragic, quite harrowing at times as well, and it centres around a little girl whose mum gets married to a fascist Spanish guy after World War II. And she creates this fantasy world to basically deal with all her emotions and all her fears. And it's beautifully realised. Has some of the... What I love about it is, it's definitely not for kids, but it's got that kind of fairy tale feeling to it, especially sort of early fairy tales. You know, when like the Grimm Brothers tales, where it used to be really... quite dark, and Pan's Labyrinth definitely has that in spades. I also quite like the way that you can decide whether you think what she's experiencing throughout the film is real, or whether you think it's just her reaction to what's going on around her and the difficulties she's having. So I quite like the fact that it's open-ended like that and doesn't sort of patronise the viewer. Anyway, beautiful film, very much has a look and a feel of its own, so definitely check that one out if you can. Okay, number 48. And another film by a director I absolutely love, David Lynch, and it's one of his best films, Blue Velvet. Now, what I love about David Lynch is he creates a world in things like Twin Peaks and Blue Velvet and Mulholland Drive that's almost like experiencing a nightmare. Many of my dreams and nightmares have that kind of logic, twisted logic, where it almost makes sense but not quite. It brings in things from the real world but then twists them and has its own logic. And David Lynch's films are very much like that. And one of the things I love about Blue Velvet is, in the same way as Twin Peaks, it really scratches the surface off that kind of picture postcard 1950s America to something much darker underneath. Definitely worth watching. One of his best films for sure. Very twisted, very nightmarish, very wonderfully and innovatively shot. Next one is LA Story. Now, this is one that people might not necessarily choose on these kind of lists. I think mainly I chose it because it was the first film that I ever bought and saw on DVD, believe it or not. And it's got its own character to it. It's quite wistful, quite, not fairy tale, but like very imaginative and spiritual almost, but also very, very funny. It's Steve Martin in one of his romantic leads, which he does very well, and doesn't do very often, but does very well. He also did a great romantic lead in Roxanne, which nearly made this list. It's definitely worth watching. Beautiful bit of romance, good romantic film, very funny, worth a watch. I've just realised I've totally missed one out. Good start. I missed out number 46. So 46 was Dancer in the Dark, which is the one and only film so far that I can think of that one of my favourite musicians, Bjork, has appeared in. It's a story about a woman a factory worker who's losing her sight, and she becomes friends with a family that basically just do her over and steal all this money from her. And then when she finds out, she ends up killing the guy, and obviously being done for his murder. So yeah, very interesting tale. Bjork's acting is amazing in it. She's not necessarily good at the everyday stuff, but when it gets very dramatic, she's very visceral in her performance. Very, very good performance by her. And yeah, it's quite disturbing and quite unsettling at times. But as it's a Bjork film as well, there's lots of great music in it as well, because one of the things that the character does throughout is to kind of bookend her life, not bookend, theme her life around music and musicals, and her emotional journey throughout the film is told through her music. So it will suddenly come out of the factory noises or something like that. The music will build, and she'll start telling the story through the music. So that gives another spin on it. Definitely a different spin on the musical genre. Yeah, again, not to everyone's taste, but definitely give it a try, and it's worth watching just for Bjork's incredible performance in it. Next one is, again, very, very silly humour. One that not everybody will love, but I absolutely love it. It's Brain Dead, which is a New Zealand film, and it's just the most ridiculous zombie film you could ever possibly watch. I think it's on record as having the most fake blood used on a film ever, and it's just so over the top, cartoon violence, and something about those New Zealand accents, nothing against people from New Zealand, but it does give it a really comedic, you're used to seeing these zombie films with American accents, so sort of hearing someone, say things like, I kick ass for the Lord, is just hilarious. Definitely worth a watch. One of the silliest films I've ever seen, certainly the funniest zombie film I've ever seen. Next one is number 44, Sweet and Lowdown. It's a Woody Allen film, the first proper Woody Allen film that I got into. Was suggested by a good friend of mine, John Schilling, who's a Woody Allen fan, and made me into one as well. And it's a great tale of the world's second best gypsy guitar player. It follows Sean Penn's very arrogant, flawed character in the 1920s, I think, or 30s. I might be wrong there. But yeah, very funny, but also very touching as well. He falls in love with a really interesting character played by Samantha Morton, who is selective mute. And it's just really interesting seeing someone so arrogant sort of fall for this girl who he treats appallingly to begin with, and then once she eventually realises that she's better off without him, then he realises what he's missing, which is often the way, isn't it? But yeah, incredible gypsy guitar music from the likes of I've forgotten his name, guy with two fingers. Reinhardt, yes, thank you brain. Yes, Django Reinhardt, his music features throughout it, and just great stuff. Definitely worth a watch, and great sort of period film of America's sort of 1930s history. Okay, next one is a really weird, trippy film called Persona. It's my favourite Ingmar Bergman film. And it's very visually striking, very, very different from anything I'd seen before or since, really. 1960s film. And it's all about one woman's obsession with another woman, and slowly she takes on her persona, and the two of them become very interconnected. It's got very, very trippy, psychedelic, black and white visuals, beautiful to watch, slightly disturbing at times. Just, really a real mind blower, really. Definitely worth a watch. I'm going to say that for all of these, aren't I? If I haven't already. Number 42, I'm going to go for a lesser known film called Peter's Friends, which is an ensemble film of great British comedians and comic actors, and you'll recognise many of them, like Stephen Fry and Hugh Laurie. and everyone else's names escaped me. But yeah, it's a real ensemble piece, and it's all about some old uni friends who catch up with each other for a reunion, and it's all about their lives and how they're, you know, that kind of reunion thing of trying to look like your life's succeeding, but as they stay together throughout the weekend, the veneer is stripped off bit by bit until we realise all the difficulties they're all having in their lives, and it's just really well acted. It's very funny, but very, very touching and moving as well. So that's Peter's Friends at number 42. And the last one to finish off this first 10. A lot of people would have put this higher, and I can totally understand why they would. It is the brilliant, the wonderful, timeless classic, Muppet Christmas Carol. Yeah, one of my favourite Christmas films, and always makes me slightly sad because it was the first film that Brian Henson made once his father, Jim Henson, had passed away in the early 90s. And it's just a classic family film. It's got everything, really. Great acting, funny moments, great quotable lines, great music, everything you could possibly want from a Muppets film or any sort of family film. So there we go. Hopefully that is now the first 10, albeit in a roundabout way. That's the first 10 choices of favourite films ever, from me anyway. I'd love to hear your top films in the comments below, so make sure you comment there and like this video and subscribe below and all those things. And thanks very much for watching. Take care.